Hello everybody, my name is Daulton Nelson, and today I'd like to give my thoughts on a game I just beat. That game being Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix for the PS4. Kingdom Hearts was made by Squaresoft, right before they became Square Enix. More specifically, it was directed by Tetsuya Nomura, the famous character designer for Square, now for Square Enix. Importantly, this game was also produced by Shinji Hashimoto and Yoshinori Kitase, both important figures within Square. The latter directed Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy X. Both are considered the creators of Kingdom Hearts. A story I found interesting while reviewing some stuff for this game was how this game came to be. The game came about from a discussion with Hashimoto and Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi of how to make something like Super Mario 64. The conversation concluded with their game not being able to compete with a character like Mario unless the game was using Disney characters. Nomura, overhearing this conversation, volunteered to lead the project, and through a chance meeting with a Disney executive, he literally elevator pitched his idea to him or her, which led to a bigger meeting, which ultimately got Kingdom Hearts greenlit. Now, I have no idea how long I've known about Kingdom Hearts. It might be through YouTube or through the internet, but I've been interested to play this game for some time now, and there are a couple of reasons for that. First, Kingdom Hearts is regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time. Second, I didn't grow up with a PlayStation or any PlayStation consoles, so I'm trying to catch up with the better known titles, like Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank. My third reason is the Discord that I frequent loves to talk about the game, which playing this game would help me catch up with their conversation. And the fourth reason is that I can't really name many notable properties that Disney has within the video games industry, which is a little odd given the fact that we're talking about a studio who is about to own 40% of the box office and has tons of talent around them usually. The Disney properties that I could name off the top of my head are Epic Mickey, Disney Infinity, Kingdom Hearts, and the Capcom titles. And so with those reasons in mind, I bought the 2.5 compilation disc that came out earlier last year. So now I'm going to catch up with the franchise. So, before we begin my thoughts, I'd like to point out that I've known the story and the events of this game for a long time. I remember I used to watch Let's Plays and walkthroughs of this game just through the aesthetic and premise alone. I was pretty interested in it. I've also seen the recent Clemps videos on Kingdom Hearts as well, so the story was pretty fresh in my mind going into it. So I'm sorry for those of you who are looking into a thoughts video of a person who wasn't spoiled by the story. So starting with the style of Kingdom Hearts, it's very cartoony, very reminiscent of Disney movies, for sure. Kingdom Hearts levels, dungeons, and worlds are mostly based off of Disney properties. A fun fact about this is that when in development, the devs picked properties that had distinct looks from each other and would have the most visual interest, which is a pretty cool way of going about making a game like this. The properties they chose to include in Kingdom Hearts include, but are not limited to, The Little Mermaid, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Tarzan, Aladdin, and Peter Pan. The worlds all stood out from each other, just like they intended. My favorite was the Halloween Town level, which changed the UV textures of the main characters and enemies to match the materials they used in the actual Tim Burton film. That's a really nice, cool detail to include. And speaking of characters' looks, I really like the character design. Tetsuya Nomura is known for his character designs, and he has a style that works flawlessly in this game. He achieves it quite well. There are also a couple original levels in the game as well. However, the only original level that I really liked was Traverse Town. Everything else seemed a little plain, like the island just looked like an island, or the end of the world just kind of looked like a plain Final Fantasy Void type world that you would see in any other Final Fantasy game. So I thought those areas could have used maybe a little bit more creativity. The models in the game could look a bit jaggy at times. Animations could look stiff too, especially facial animations, which look really bad when the character talking wasn't part of the main party. And how they kind of animated it was that their mouths would just kind of open and close, and their eye sprites would change to like normal to worried, so that was just a little distracting. The sound in Kingdom Hearts was very good. I liked it for the most part. There was only one sound effect that distracted me. and it's a very specific sound effect, so I don't really want to go into it. It might just be nitpicky, but I don't think it'll affect anybody else. I think it was just me. Famous Square Enix composer Yoko Shimomura did a great job making such a memorable soundtrack. The opening track, Simple and Clean, has been a favorite of mine for years, especially the Plantib mix or whatever it's called. There are also tons of iconic original tracks in here like Dearly Beloved, Dive Into the Heart, the Kyrie tracks, and the Traverse Town theme, as well as the tracks that are based off of Disney worlds that might be rearrangements or just thematically similar, like Deep Jungle, Winnie the Pooh, Under the Sea, and This Is Halloween. I think the voice acting could have been a little bit more improved before the game shipped. I wish it was a little bit more consistent in quality. However, some of the VA was reprised from the original voice cast of a movie, which was pretty cool to hear. So I'm glad they chose to include even that detail into this game. Now, a big part of Kingdom Hearts is the narrative. And from my interpretation of it, the basic plot of Kingdom Hearts is a tale of growing up and facing the new world and its light and dark moments. Here's some basic plot points for the beginning of the game. Sora, Riku, and Kairi live on a remote island with familiar friends and family. All three of them wish to leave the island go on an adventure. Strange things start happening to Sora. Soon, the island is swallowed by darkness, and the monsters appear. Riku and Kairi disappear, Sora gains the Keyblade and is whisked away. Meanwhile, at the Magic Kingdom, or at least I think it's called that, Donald and Goofy realize that King Mickey Mouse is missing, and they must find him. Mickey Mouse leaves them with a letter, tasking them to find the Keyblade wielder, as he looks into why stars are disappearing from the sky. Donald, Goofy, and Sora all end up meeting in a place called Traverse Town. When the three meet, they learn of a prophecy where Sora must lock the keyholes of worlds in order to prevent dark monsters called Heartless from swallowing them like they did his island. From there, the three set off with Donald and Goofy trying to find King Mickey and Sora trying to find his friends. This adventure includes a Disney-themed quest, visiting iconic Disney-branded worlds, and reliving the plots of those movies. Final Fantasy characters also appear in the game as well, and they come from a wide range of titles. Titles such as Final Fantasy 8, 7, 10, and so on. I did like the story, but there were some problems that I had with it. Some of the dialogue written for the game could be a bit cheesy and cringy, sometimes sappy at times, but I do recognize that this is a kid's game, and thus, many plot points are simplified for them. Some of the rules Kingdom Hearts sets up for its universe are contradicted at times. It was a little distracting, but nothing big. I think they did the cliffhanger ending of this game well. Another big part of Kingdom Hearts is the gameplay. Kingdom Hearts is an action hack-and-slash RPG. Players are given a drop-down menu which they can select actions for Sora to then follow through with. These can include attacking, using magic, using an item, or summoning something. Attacking allows the player to follow through with a hack-and-slash-esque combo, which grows as the player levels up in the game. Sometimes this could feel a bit repetitive and button-mashy, but as I progressed through the game and learned more combo moves, this became less of a problem. Magic allows the player to do a variety of things. They could heal, shoot fire, shotgun some ice, spread some thunder, guard with air, etc., etc. And these spells could be very useful for enemies that are at a distance that you can't reach with your hack-and-slash combo. Players can gain new improvements on their current magic throughout the game in a variety of ways. This could include completing a world or just talking to an NPC. Using magic consumes MP, so the players won't be able to spam strong magic, and thus must work towards a balance between using magic and using attacks. Items can be used, but players must give the characters the items within a menu. You cannot just buy them and use them. They have to be within a character's personal inventory. And this kind of system that they have here is the only trouble I had within the UI of this game. Exchanging items between the stock and the character could be a little bit troublesome. I wish they streamlined that just a little bit more. Most items you would use boil down to potions, ethers, or elixirs. Potions can heal down party members, so there's no need for a specialized item like in the Final Fantasy series that uses a Phoenix down. You can just use a potion here. Players can summon certain Disney characters like Bambi, Mushu, and Tinkerbell to aid them in battle, but only if all three of the party members you have are still alive. I'm not quite sure how this works, Sometimes it wouldn't allow me to summon despite my party members being fine, so maybe that could have been a bit more clear, or maybe I should have paid attention a little bit more. Each summon behaves in different ways and acts differently, encouraging the player to try them all. For example, Bambi would spawn a lot of magic orbs in order to help you gain more MP. Moving on to battling, which is what you'll do a lot of in this game, groups of enemies will either be lurking around a map or will appear in certain areas. Players can lock onto enemies it's kind of like Z-targeting from the Zelda franchise. Sometimes the game would lock onto something I didn't want to lock on, like a barrel. The developers already have a toolset that recognizes when the player is in battle and when they're not in battle, so I wish they kinda used that toolset to turn off maybe some of the locking on colliders or whatever they're using within the game, so that the player could lock on to the enemies and not a barrel that's right next to them, because otherwise that could be very disorienting and guide the players in the wrong direction and maybe somewhere have them do something that they don't want to do. Defeating an enemy will cause them to explode into health, money, or magic orbs. The player can also gain experience through defeating enemies. It can also be gained through teching or parrying attacks, which is when you attack an enemy right as they're attacking, thus negating the attack altogether. The timing is super precise, which encourages you to up your game. When players level up, they gain a boost to a certain stat, like HP, AP, MP, strength, or even learn a new ability that they can use. When in battle and when you attack, sometimes particle effects or attack graphics will spawn, and I found this to be a little bit visually cluttering. Sometimes I couldn't see where I was being hit or where an enemy was. I think they could have toned down this attack graphics / particle effects a lot, because it's too much. Finally, for battles, if players wish to run away from battles, they can simply do that, literally run away. And I found that to really help the flow of the game. You don't need to wade through menus in order to select a run command. You can just run away, which is pretty cool. Now, focusing a little bit more on the UI, I like the overall look of the UI in the game. It's very stylized. I also like the customization that Kingdom Hearts allowed you to have within your party members and what they could do. Players can equip armors and weapons to party members to boost their stats. It can also equip abilities that do different things, like boost their attack combo, or spawn more orbs at the ends of battles. But most abilities also use AP, which a certain character will have a limited supply of. And so how it works is, a player could have 5 AP and you equip an ability that has 3 AP, thus you'll have 2 AP left. And vice versa, if they de-equip that ability, they will have 5 AP again. And so players have to use management skills to choose the abilities that most suit their gameplay style. Players can also customize the hotkeys that help them cast magic faster. They can also customize how their party members act. Players also have access to a journal kept by the character Jiminy Cricket that holds story plot points, enemy information, side quest progress, and other such records. Players can also configure options and settings like toggling on and off auto lock, target lock, vibration, and setting how the camera axes work. Another important facet of the gameplay is traveling between worlds and exploring. Once players are done with the first Traverse Town section, they can travel in between worlds. At the start, 3 worlds are available, but clearing certain worlds can award the player with a Navi Gummy that they can then bring back to Traverse Town and upgrade the amount of worlds they can visit. When visiting a world, for the most part, the player's party will gain the assistance of a notable Disney character that the world itself is based off of. These characters can include, but are not limited to, Tarzan, Beast, Aladdin, or Peter Pan. These characters can be customized in the same way that the player's party can be customized. And when choosing what characters make up your party, only 3 characters can make up the party as a whole. And since Sora is required, you usually have to leave a Disney character behind. I'm looking at you, Donald. And so when a player travels in between a world, they can run into something called a gummy section, using a gummy ship. These sections are on-rail shoot-'em-ups, reminiscent of Star Fox. Players can gain items for their gummy ship by either playing these sections or doing other things like buying them from Sid Highwind. In the world map, players can customize their gummy ship with these pieces. And this gameplay section reminded me very much of the video game LEGO Racers, where in that game you could also build your cart, and it kinda acts the same way here in Kingdom Hearts. One way it differs is that each piece of your gummy ship has a function, so players also have to consider the functionality as well as aesthetics. For example, some pieces would up your armor, or your health, or would change your shooting patterns, or would add more maneuverability, and such and so on. I've seen some criticism from other people saying that these gummy sections aren't really interesting, but there is some good news with that, as the player is only really required to go through a gummy section once, as they get a warp gummy later on that helps them travel between worlds without having to go through the sections again. However, for those who do like these sections, missions are available to those who seek to challenge themselves. I don't know if these missions reward you with anything or not, as I didn't really partake in them, but they are there for people who want to get more into these gummy sections. There are some other things of note within the gameplay. The game's difficulty was mostly consistent, except for one room in the game, and it's at the end of the game. I also didn't agree with how the player chooses their strength and their weakness at the start of the game, especially for a first-time player who doesn't know what the game is like. If I were a designer, I would have placed this segment further into the game, like after the first Traverse Town segment, thus the player can make a more informed decision about what they would like as their strength and their weakness. A lot of Kingdom Hearts reminded me of a game I played earlier this year called Nier Automata. Both are by the same publisher. Both Nier and the compilation that this Kingdom Hearts game came on came out in the same year. Both are very unique and stylized, and both are considered classics up to this point. So I just found that as a little interesting comparison. And as a reviewer, I would say if you like Nier Automata, you should try this game out. And conversely, if you like this game, you should try Nier Automata out. There were some wonky platforming segments within the game, and that could make for some frustrating situations. For example, within the Halloween Town level, when you're climbing Oogie Boogie's house or castle or whatever it is, there are some narrow platforms that you have to fight on that you could fall off, so that was a little bit frustrating. But the devs were clearly trying this type of gameplay style out, and I think they did succeed. It's just that the game itself isn't perfect, but that's fine, a game doesn't need to be perfect. And plus, even with these faults that I bet fans of the series already know about, they probably still love this game and still consider it a classic, which speaks to the strengths of this game and how they can really capture a person. So to conclude this video, to bring everything together, I liked Kingdom Hearts overall. It's not one of my favorite RPGs or action games, but I really get the appeal and love it. I'd give it a final score of a 7 out of 10. What I liked were the aesthetics, the soundtrack, the presentation, the core gameplay, and the amount of options that the player is given, while I disliked the aging models, the unfortunate camera moments, the kinda sappy dialogue, and the need for some polishing within some of the gameplay sections. I'd just like to end off by saying that many games that are considered classics, I wouldn't give a 10, and some of my favorite games of all time, I wouldn't give a 10. So I'm just saying that don't get angry because I gave Kingdom Hearts a 7. I still really like this game, and I can see myself coming back and playing it at some point. It's not bad by any means. I'm just kind of grading it on some of the flaws that I found throughout the game. And in a way, some of those flaws make me really interested in playing a game like Kingdom Hearts 2 or Birth by Sleep, where they improve upon this formula. I'll also be playing some of the spin-offs, like a game I'm going to be playing 2 games from now, Recoded Rechain of Memories, I think it's called. So look forward to that as well. So that concludes my thoughts on the classic video game Kingdom Hearts. What did you think on them? Are you angry that I gave it a 7? Are you happy that I enjoyed the game? I don't really encourage subscribing or commenting, but if you have the time, if you could check out the links to my social media or the link to my online portfolio, that's all in the description below. So I hope I didn't anger you too much and that you have a great day.